They say the best revenge is living well. I disagree. The best revenge is watching someone's entire world burn down in high definition on a 20-foot projector screen in front of everyone they've ever loved. My name is Mark, and until 6 months ago, I was the loser husband in my wife's secret world. She thought I was paying for her marketing seminars. In reality, I was funding her affair in Cabo. But she forgot one thing. I'm an architect. I don't just build things. I know exactly how to find the structural weakness in a lie and bring the whole thing crashing down. Here is how I used her sister's $1,000 wedding to end her life as she knew it. They say when your heart breaks, it doesn't actually make a sound. That's a lie. I heard it. I heard it loud and clear on a random, rainy Tuesday afternoon in my laundry room. It sounded exactly like the ping of an Apple Watch notification. But before I tell you about the sound of my life falling apart, you need to understand the man I was before that Tuesday. My name is Mark. I'm an architect, a guy who lives for structure, blueprints, and things that make sense. I spent 10 years building a career where I designed homes for people to find peace in. And for 6 of those years, I thought I had built the ultimate sanctuary for myself and my wife, Jessica. Jessica was radiant. That's the only word for her. She was a marketing manager, the kind of person who could walk into a room of strangers and have everyone laughing in 5 minutes. We were that couple. You know the one, the #blessed couple on Instagram. We had the colonial-style house in the suburbs with the wraparound porch, the golden retriever named Buster, and the kind of Sunday morning routines that belonged in a coffee commercial. I loved her with a kind of blind, architectural precision. I trusted the foundation of our marriage because I thought I was the one who poured the concrete. The cracks didn't appear all at once. They never do. In my profession, we call it settling. A little hairline fracture here, a slight creak in the floorboard there. You ignore them because you think the house is strong enough to handle it. About a year ago, Jessica started talking about privacy. We had always been an open book couple. I knew her phone passcode. She knew mine. We shared an iPad. There was no mine or yours. It was just ours. Then, one night, she changed the passcode on her iPhone. It's for a work security thing, Mark, she said, not looking up from her salad. The company is being super strict about data protection. I had to sign a whole NDA. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I'm an architect. I understand security protocols. Then came the fitness phase. Jessica had always hated the gym. Her idea of a workout was walking from the car to the mall entrance. But suddenly, in January, she joined an elite, 24-hour club across town. I need to look good for Sarah's wedding, she told me. Sarah is her younger sister, the golden child of the family. The wedding was 6 months away, and Jessica was the maid of honor. I can't be the frumpy older sister in the photos, Mark. I hired a personal trainer. His name is Ryan. He's supposed to be the best in the city. I supported her. I really did. I started cooking healthier meals. I took over more of the chores so she could spend 2 hours at the gym every evening. I even bought her a new Apple Watch so she could track her heart rate. Looking back, that was the most expensive mistake of my life. By March, the gym sessions were getting longer. She was coming home at 10 p.m., sometimes 11 p.m. She'd head straight for the shower, barely saying hello. And that was the second crack, the smell. Jessica used a specific lavender body wash. It was her signature scent. But when she came home from the gym, she smelled like cedarwood and musky sandalwood. The gym has these amazing luxury showers, she'd say when I asked. They have all these high-end soaps. It's like a spa day after every workout. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that jealousy was a structural flaw I couldn't afford. Then came the marketing seminars. I have to go to Chicago for a weekend, babe, she told me in April. New client. Big pitch. If I land this, the bonus will pay off our car loans. I kissed her goodbye at the airport. I watched her walk through the terminal in her best blazer. I went home, played fetch with Buster, and felt like a lucky man. That Tuesday, the Tuesday it all ended, I had a migraine. I took a sick day. Jessica thought I was at the office. She had left early that morning for a breakfast meeting. I was in the laundry room, moving a load of towels to the dryer, when I saw it. Her Apple Watch. She must have taken it off to do the dishes the night before and forgotten it in her rush to leave. I picked it up to put it on the charger. The screen was black. And then, it happened. Ping. A notification from an app called Signal. I didn't even know she had Signal. The sender's name was Coach R. The message didn't just pop up as a headline. Because she hadn't locked the watch's preview settings, the whole message scrolled across that tiny screen in bright, glowing letters. Last night in Cabo was a dream. I'm still thinking about you in that blue bikini. Can't wait for the wedding weekend so we don't have to hide anymore. Is the loser husband still suspicious? I stood there, surrounded by the smell of clean laundry and fabric softener, and I felt the world tilt on its axis. Cabo. She was supposed to be in Chicago. Lose her husband? I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even move for a long time. My architect brain kicked in. I looked at the watch, then at my own phone. I took a photo of the screen. Then another. Then I scrolled. I shouldn't have scrolled. There were hundreds of them. Photos of them at dinner. Photos of them in a hotel bed. Texts where they laughed about my architect brain being too focused on blueprints to notice his wife was building a new life with a man who actually knew how to handle her. My hands were shaking, but my mind was cold. Like ice. Jessica had handed me the bricks to my own execution, and now I was going to use them to build a monument to her downfall. I put the watch back exactly where I found it. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat at the table. I had two choices. I could wait for her to come home and have a screaming match that would end in a messy divorce where she'd lie, manipulate, and take half of everything I'd worked for. Or I could wait. The wedding was in 8 weeks. The big, expensive, high-society wedding where everyone who mattered to Jessica would be in one room. Her parents, her judgmental aunts, her boss, and of course, the groom's best man, Ryan. Yes, Coach R wasn't just her trainer. He was the best man for her sister's wedding. I picked up the phone and didn't call a lawyer. Not yet. I called a private investigator I'd heard about through a client. A man who specialized in high-stakes domestic verification. I need everything. I told him when he picked up. Photos, bank statements, travel logs. I want to know what they eat for breakfast. And I need it all by June 15th. That's the day of the Miller wedding, isn't it? The PI asked. No, I said, staring out at the wraparound porch I'd built with my own hands. That's the day of the funeral. Meeting Tony, the private investigator, was like stepping into a noir film that I never wanted to audition for. His office was tucked away in a gritty part of the city, located above a dry cleaner that smelled like stale chemicals and broken dreams. Tony himself was a massive guy, a retired cop with a face that looked like it had been carved out of granite. He didn't offer me coffee. He didn't offer me sympathy. He just slid a thick, manila envelope across his scarred metal desk. You were right, kid, Tony said, his voice a low growl. But it's worse than you thought. A lot worse. I opened the envelope. My hands, usually steady enough to draw micro-precise blueprints, were trembling. I pulled out the first stack of photos. There she was. Jessica, my wife. She was laughing, her head tilted back in that way she only did when she was truly happy. But she wasn't with me. She was sitting at a sidewalk cafe, her hand resting on the muscular forearm of a man I recognized immediately. Ryan, the coach. The photos were high resolution, captured with a cold, clinical precision. Slide after slide of betrayal. Them holding hands in the park. Them kissing in the parking lot of the gym. And then, the motel photos. A cheap place on the edge of town where you pay by the hour. My wife, who insisted on 5-star hotels and silk sheets, was walking into a room that probably smelled like cigarettes and regret with another man. I have something else for you, Tony said, pulling out a printout of bank statements. You asked me to look into the finances. You said you noticed some unusual activity on your home equity line of credit. I nodded. I'd seen a few thousands missing, but I'd assumed it was for the kitchen renovation supplies she said she was ordering. She didn't buy a new stove, Mark, Tony said, pointing to a highlighted row. April 12th, Southwest Airlines. 2 round-trip tickets to Cabo San Lucas. Luxury resort booking. $4,200. Total spend on that trip? Upwards of $7 grand. All taken from the equity of this house. I felt the blood drain from my face. It was one thing to be cheated on. It was another thing to be a financier of your own humiliation. While I was sitting at home, working 60 hours a week to pay the mortgage on a house I built for us, she was using the very walls of that house to fund a romantic getaway with her trainer. She's smart, Tony continued. She opened a secondary credit card in your name, linked to the Helic. She's been funneling money for months. Gifts, dinners, hotel rooms. You've been paying for his protein shakes and their weekend trysts, Mark. I sat there in the silence of that dingy office, the hum of the dry cleaner's machines vibrating through the floor. The architect in me was already starting to calculate. I wasn't just looking at a broken marriage anymore. I was looking at a structural failure, a total collapse. And in my world, when a building is unsalvageable, you don't try to patch the cracks. You perform a controlled demolition. Keep digging, I told Tony. I want every text, every receipt, every moment they think is private. I want enough evidence to bury them both. The next few weeks were a psychological marathon. Living with Jessica became a performance that would have won an Oscar. Every evening, she'd come home from the gym, smelling of that musky cedarwood soap, and she'd kiss me. I had to force myself not to flinch. I had to smile back. I had to ask, how was your workout, babe? Oh, it was grueling, she'd say, tossing her gym bag on the floor. The same bag Tony's photos showed Ryan carrying into that motel. Ryan is really pushing me. I want to look perfect for Sarah's wedding. I'm sure you will. I'd reply, my voice steady, my mind screaming. You're going to be the center of attention. She had no idea that I spent my nights in the basement, not working on blueprints, but working on a different kind of project. I was building a digital timeline. I had the photos Tony sent me, the bank statements, and I'd even managed to place a voice-activated recorder in her car. The audio I captured was the final nail in the coffin. I can't believe Mark is actually paying for the honeymoon suite for us next weekend. I heard Ryan's voice through the speakers of my laptop. The guy is a total pushover. He's a loser husband, Ryan. Jessica's voice followed, accompanied by a giggle that made my skin crawl. He's so obsessed with his structures that he doesn't see what's right in front of him. Once the wedding is over and I get my bonus, I'm out. I just need him to finish paying for the house renovations so the resale value is higher. Hearing her call me a loser was the turning point. The sadness evaporated. The love I'd carried for her for 6 years didn't just die. It was incinerated. 2 weeks before the wedding, the opportunity I'd been waiting for fell right into my lap. We were sitting at the dinner table. I'd made her favorite lemon herb chicken when she looked at me with those big, innocent eyes. Mark, can I ask you a huge favor? She said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. Sarah is so stressed out with the wedding planning. The videographer they hired is charging a fortune just to put together a simple photo slideshow for the reception. You're so good with tech and design. Would you mind making it for her? Just some childhood photos, some cute couple shots of her and Dave. It would mean the world to her. I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a genuine smile tug at the corners of my mouth. It was a cold, predatory smile, but she mistook it for kindness. Of course, Jessica, I said. I'd be honored. I'll make sure it's something nobody in that room will ever forget. You're the best husband ever, she chirped, oblivious to the fact that she had just handed me the keys to the kingdom. She wanted a slideshow. She wanted a journey of their lives. Fine, I would give them a journey, but it wouldn't be the one they expected. I spent the next 10 nights editing. I used my architectural software to create high-definition overlays. I synced the audio recordings to the photos. I mapped out the entire presentation with the precision of a skyscraper's foundation. The wedding was being held at the Ritz-Carlton. 400 guests. The elite of the suburbs. Her parents, who had always looked down on me for being just an architect instead of a doctor or lawyer. Her sister, Sarah, the bride who thought her life was a fairy tale. And Ryan, the best man. The night before the wedding, I sat in the dark of my office, the USB drive glowing on my desk. I'd named the file Sarah__wedding_final. But in my heart, it was named the end of Jessica. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was the architect of her destruction. And tomorrow, the building was coming down. The day of the wedding arrived with a cruel, mocking brightness. The sun was shining over the city, the kind of perfect weather that makes you believe in fairy tales. But as I stood in front of the mirror in our bedroom, tightening my silk tie, I didn't feel like I was in a fairy tale. I felt like a demolition expert checking his explosives one last time before pressing the plunger. Jessica was already at the Ritz-Carlton, having left at 5 a.m. for hair and makeup. She'd kissed me on the cheek, a cold, practiced gesture, and told me she'd see me at the ceremony. Don't forget the USB drive, Mark. It's the most important part of the night, she chirped. Oh, I hadn't forgotten. It was sitting in the inner pocket of my tuxedo, right against my heart. The Ritz-Carlton was a sea of white roses, crystal chandeliers, and people who spent more on their shoes than I spent on my first car. The ceremony was held in the Grand Ballroom, a space I'd actually studied back in my university days for its incredible structural arches. It was beautiful, opulent, and entirely built on a foundation of lies, at least for today. I sat in the second row, right behind the immediate family. I watched Jessica walk down the aisle as the maid of honor. She looked stunning in a lavender silk gown. She held her bouquet with grace, her face a mask of sisterly pride. Every eye in the room was on her, and then they shifted to the altar where Ryan stood. Ryan, the best man. He was wearing a custom-fitted tuxedo, likely paid for by the credit card linked to my house equity, and he had this smug, self-satisfied grin on his face. He caught Jessica's eye for a split second, a look of shared secrets and hidden lust. They thought they were the smartest people in the room. They thought I was just the loser husband sitting in the audience, holding the camera. The ceremony was a blur of vows and music, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others. I almost laughed out loud when the priest said that. I looked at Jessica. She was dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief, pretending to be moved. The hypocrisy was so thick I could practically taste it. After the I-do's, the guests moved to the foyer for cocktail hour. I, however, had work to do. I slipped away to the AV booth at the back of the reception hall. The technician, a young guy named Leo, was busy adjusting the levels on the massive, 20-foot projector screen that dominated the front of the room. "Hey, I'm Mark. I've got the slideshow for the reception," I said, handing him the USB drive. "Oh, the one the bride's sister was talking about? She said it was a surprise," Leo said, plugging it in. "A huge surprise," I replied, my voice flat. "Listen, Leo, I'm an architect. I'm very particular about the timing. I have a remote clicker. I want to control the slides from the floor. And the audio needs to be patched directly into the main house speakers. Can we do that?" "Sure thing, man. It's all set up. You just hit play on your remote, and the house lights will dim automatically." I thanked him and walked out into the reception hall. The room was filling up. 400 people. The cream of society. Jessica's parents were at the head table, looking regal. Her father, a man who had once told me I lacked ambition, was bragging about his daughter's career. Dinner was served, filet mignon and lobster tail. I didn't eat a single bite. My stomach was a knot of adrenaline. Jessica sat at the head table, right next to Ryan. They were whispering, their shoulders touching. It was bold. It was disrespectful. It was exactly what I needed to fuel my resolve. Finally, the moment came. The clinking of glasses signaled the start of the toasts. Sarah's father spoke first, a sentimental speech about his 2 perfect daughters. Then it was Ryan's turn. He stood up, holding his champagne flute like a trophy. "I've known Dave since college," he began, his voice booming and confident. "And seeing him find someone like Sarah, it reminds you that true loyalty and honesty still exist in this world." "To Sarah and Dave." "To Sarah and Dave," the room echoed. I stood up. I didn't wait for an introduction. I walked to the center of the dance floor, the small black remote hidden in my palm. "Excuse me, everyone," I said, my voice amplified by the microphone I'd grabbed from the podium. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to me. I saw Jessica smiling, nodding encouragingly. She thought her sweet, helpful husband was about to deliver the crowning jewel of the evening. Jessica asked me to put together a little something to celebrate the journey that led us all here today. I continued. She told me she wanted something unforgettable, something that captured the truth of what's been happening behind the scenes over the last few months. I looked directly at Jessica. Her smile faltered just a fraction. Something in my tone must have been off. So, without further ado, let's look at the foundations of this family. I pressed the button. The house lights slammed to black. The massive screen flickered to life. Slide 1. A beautiful photo of Sarah and Dave on their first date. The room awed. Soft, romantic piano music began to play. Slide 2. Sarah and Jessica as little girls, playing in a sprinkler. More AWS. I saw Jessica relax. She leaned back, a smug look of triumph on her face. Slide 3. The music stopped abruptly. The screen went white for 3 seconds, then a giant, high-definition screenshot filled the frame. It was a text thread. The contact name at the top was Coach R with a heart emoji. "Last night in Cabo was a dream. I'm still thinking about you in that blue bikini. Can't wait for the wedding weekend so we don't have to hide anymore. Is the loser husband still suspicious?" The response from Jessica, "Nope. He's clueless. I'll be at the hotel in 20. Room 304. I love your money, but I love your body more." The silence that hit that room was unlike anything I've ever experienced. It wasn't just quiet, it was a vacuum. I could hear the hum of the air conditioning. I could hear the gasp of Sarah's mother from the front row. "Mark? What is this?" Jessica's voice cracked through the dark. She was standing up now, her face pale in the glow of the screen. "Turn it off. This isn't funny." "Oh, I'm just getting started, Jess," I said, my voice echoing like a judge delivering a sentence. Slide 4. A photo Tony had taken. Ryan and Jessica, wrapped around each other in the parking lot of the gym. His hand was up her lavender dress. The timestamp was visible. April 14th, 11:42 p.m. Slide 5. A bank statement. I had highlighted the Southwest Airlines charges and the hotel in Cabo in neon yellow. Over the image, I typed in bold, black letters. Total funded by Mark's house equity. $14,500. The room erupted. It was like a bomb had gone off. People were standing, pointing, whispering. Sarah, the bride, was staring at the screen with her mouth open, tears streaming down her face. Her groom, Dave, looked like he was about to jump across the table and kill Ryan. "You son of a bitch!" Dave screamed, lunging for Ryan. 2 groomsmen had to tackle him to the ground. But I wasn't done. I pressed the button again. Slide 6. A black screen with an audio wave. The speakers roared to life with the recording from Jessica's car. "I can't wait to leave him, Ryan. He's such a boring, spineless pushover. I'm just waiting for the house renovations to finish so I can take him for every cent in the divorce." Jessica's own voice, laughing, filled the ballroom. It was cold, mocking and unmistakable. Jessica was on her knees now, sobbing, screaming for someone to turn it off. Her father was standing over her, his face a shade of purple I'd never seen before. He wasn't looking at me with disdain anymore. He was looking at his daughter with pure, unadulterated shame. I walked to the edge of the head table. I looked down at Ryan, who was trying to crawl away under the tablecloth. Then I looked at Jessica. The blueprints were wrong, Jess, I said, loud enough for the front 3 tables to hear. The structure was rotten. So I did what any good architect does. I dropped the microphone. The thud echoed through the speakers. I leveled it. I turned around and walked out of the ballroom. I didn't look back at the chaos. I didn't look back at the wine glasses being thrown or the family falling apart. I walked through the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton, handed my valet ticket to the attendant, and waited for my car. The night air was cool. For the first time in months, I could breathe. The demolition was complete. And now, it was time to build something new. I didn't stay to watch the punches land. I didn't stay to hear Jessica's desperate excuses or see Sarah's tears turn into the kind of rage that burns down family legacies. As I walked through the sliding glass doors of the Ritz-Carlton, the cool night air felt like a baptism. Behind me, the muffled sounds of chaos, shouting, the crashing of glass, and the distant wail of a hotel security siren faded into the background. I sat in my car for a moment, my hands gripping the steering wheel. For the first time in months, they weren't shaking. My architect brain, the part of me that had been obsessively planning this demolition, finally felt at peace. The structure was gone. The site was cleared. Now came the cleanup. My phone started blowing up before I even cleared the parking lot. Ping, ping, ping. A text from Sarah's cousin, Ben. Dude, you are a freaking legend. Dave just broke a chair over Ryan's head. Security is calling the cops. You might want to go into hiding. A text from my mother-in-law, Linda. Mark, how could you? You humiliated our family in front of everyone. You've ruined Sarah's wedding. You're a monster. I didn't reply to Linda. I just blocked her. I wasn't the one who slept with the best man in a motel that smelled like bleach and betrayal. I wasn't the one who spent my son-in-law's hard-earned money on a secret vacation. If the truth ruined their perfect family image, then the image was a lie to begin with. I got home around 11:30 p.m. The house was dark, sitting silent on its manicured lawn. I looked at the wraparound porch, the one I'd spent my weekends building. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a crime scene. Earlier that morning, while Jessica was at the salon getting her hair curled for her big performance, I had a locksmith over. I walked up to the front door and tried my old key. It worked. Then I stepped inside and turned the deadbolt. I had a second set of keys in my pocket for the new locks I'd installed on the back door and the garage. I walked into the kitchen. On the marble island, right where we used to have our Sunday morning coffee, I placed a thick blue folder. Inside were the divorce papers, pre-signed by me, along with a printed copy of every bank statement and a USB drive containing the Cabo highlights. Beside the folder, I placed 2 heavy-duty black garbage bags. A silent message. Around 2 a.m., a car pulled into the driveway. Through the Ring doorbell camera on my phone, I watched an Uber drop off a wrecked version of my wife. Her lavender dress was stained with what looked like red wine, likely a gift from her sister. Her hair was a bird's nest, and her makeup was smeared down her face like a tragic clown. She tried her key. It didn't turn. She tried again, jiggling it, pounding the door with her fist. Mark, open the door. I know you're in there, she screamed. Her voice was hoarse from crying. You can't do this. I live here. I didn't open the door. I pressed the talk button on the app. You don't live here anymore, Jessica. My voice came through the porch speaker, calm and metallic. Check the folder on the porch. I left a copy of the emergency protective order taped to the underside of the bench. If you don't leave in 5 minutes, the silent alarm I tripped when you touched the handle will bring the police here. And I don't think you want to spend the night in jail in that dress. Mark, please, she sobbed, leaning her head against the wood. It was a mistake. I was confused. Ryan manipulated me. Ryan didn't type those texts, Jess. Ryan didn't use my credit card to buy those tickets. You did. Go to your parents. Oh wait, I heard Sarah's dad told the entire room he was disowning you. Maybe Coach has a couch for you. I turned off the camera and walked to the bedroom. I slept better that night than I had in years. The next Monday, I met my commander-in-chief, Mrs. Stone. She was 60 years old, wore Chanel suits like armor, and had a reputation for making grown men weep in depositions. I handed her the full file from Tony, the PI. Mr. Daniels, she said, peering over her reading glasses at the forensic accounting report. You didn't just find a cheating wife. You found a fraudster, using a home equity line of credit for non-marital purposes, specifically to fund an affair, is what we call dissipation of marital assets. In this state, judges find that particularly distasteful. I don't want a settlement, Mrs. Stone, I said. I want everything. I want the house. I want the equity. I want her to take every cent of the debt she racked up on that secret card. And I want her to pay back every dollar spent on that Cabo trip. Mrs. Stone smiled. It was the smile of a shark that had just scented blood in the water. Oh, we're going to do more than that. We're going to sue for legal fees and emotional distress based on the public nature of her conspiracy to hide assets. We go scorched earth. The legal battle lasted 3 months, but the social battle was over in 48 hours. The video from the wedding went viral. Someone, likely one of the bridesmaids who had always secretly hated Jessica, uploaded a clip of the projector screen to TikTok. It had 5 million views by Tuesday. The caption was, "Architect husband builds the perfect trap for cheating wife." Jessica became a pariah. Her marketing firm, obsessed with brand integrity, placed her on administrative leave after clients started calling to ask if the woman who stole from her husband was the one handling their accounts. She was fired a week later. But the real satisfaction came from Ryan's downfall. Ryan worked as a junior wealth manager at a mid-sized investment bank. In that world, reputation is everything. I didn't even have to call his boss. The internet did it for me. Someone found his LinkedIn, matched it to the coach or in the video, and flooded his company's Google reviews. Does investment firm X know they employ a man who conspires to steal house equity from clients' families? He was fired for violating the morality and ethics clause in his contract. Because the bank didn't want a lawsuit, they cited financial misconduct regarding the unauthorized use of credit lines. His career in finance was dead. Last I heard, he moved back to his parents' basement in Ohio and was working at a car rental counter. The final meeting for the divorce settlement was held in a cold, glass-walled conference room. Jessica looked like a shadow of herself. No designer clothes, no expensive hair appointments. Just a woman facing the consequences of her own structural failures. Her lawyer tried to fight for 50% of the house. Mrs. Stone didn't even let him finish his sentence. She slid the USB drive across the table, the one with the recording of Jessica laughing about taking me for everything I had. "If this goes to a judge," Mrs. Stone said softly, "my client will not only get the house, but we will file criminal charges for credit card fraud. Your client admitted to a conspiracy on tape. Do you really want to test the local DA's patience?" Jessica signed the papers. She got her 2015 Honda Civic and her clothes. I got the house, the savings, and my dignity. As she walked out of the office, she stopped and looked at me. "I hope you're happy, Mark. You destroyed my life." "No, Jessica," I said, picking up my briefcase. "I just showed everyone the life you were already living. I'm just the architect. You're the one who forgot to put in the support beams." I walked out into the sunlight. Buster was waiting for me in the car, his tail thumping against the seat. We drove past the Ritz-Carlton on the way home, and I didn't even flinch. The site was clear. The debris was hauled away. And finally, I was ready to start a new build. They say time heals all wounds. That's a cliche, and like most cliches, it's only half true. Time doesn't heal the wound. It just turns it into a scar. And a scar is good. A scar is thick skin. A scar is a reminder that you survived something that was designed to kill you. It has been exactly 365 days since the night of the wedding. 1 full year since I stood on that dance floor at the Ritz-Carlton and pressed play on the demolition of my old life. My life looks very different now. I sold the big colonial house in the suburbs. I couldn't stand the way the morning light hit the wraparound porch. It felt like a mocking reminder of the man who used to stand there, blissfully unaware of the rot in his own foundation. I took the equity, every single cent that the court had awarded me, and I bought a modern condo in the heart of the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows, exposed brick, and no lawn to mow. It's a space designed for one person and a very loyal golden retriever. Buster loves the balcony. He spends hours watching the city traffic, probably wondering where all the squirrels went. I also finally took that trip to Italy. You remember, the one Jessica and I were supposed to take for our 5th anniversary? The one she postponed because of a work seminar that turned out to be a week in Cabo with Ryan? Yeah, I went alone. I spent 3 weeks in Tuscany, drinking wine that cost more than my monthly car insurance and eating pasta that made me realize I'd been living on cardboard for 6 years. I sat on a terrace overlooking the rolling hills of Florence, and I realized something profound. I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of her. I missed the structure I had built in my head, but the actual person inhabiting that structure was a stranger I never really knew. I hadn't seen Jessica since the day we signed the divorce papers. I'd blocked her on everything: phone, email, social media. She was a ghost, a bad memory that I'd tucked away in a drawer. But the universe has a funny, almost poetic sense of humor. Last Tuesday, I was at a local grocery store, the cheap one on the edge of town, not the high-end organic place Jessica used to insist on. I was picking up some steaks for a game night with some old college friends. I turned the corner into the frozen food aisle, and there she was. She didn't see me at first. She was staring intently at a box of frozen, budget-brand lasagna. She looked diminished. The glamorous, high-maintenance Jessica, who wouldn't be caught dead without designer heels and a blowout, was gone. She was wearing faded sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. Her hair, which used to be her pride and joy, was pulled back in a messy, greasy bun. She looked tired. Not just sleepy tired, but the kind of tired that comes from realizing you've burned every bridge you ever crossed. I could have turned around. I could have walked away and let her remain a ghost. But I didn't. I stood my ground. She reached for the lasagna, and as she did, she looked up. Our eyes locked. For a split second, I saw raw panic in her face. Then, it was replaced by a crushing wave of shame. She dropped the box of lasagna back into the freezer. "Mark," she whispered. Her voice was thin, lacking the confident vibrance I remembered. I just nodded. I didn't say anything. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt nothing. And that's when I knew I was truly free. Indifference is the ultimate revenge. "You look good," she said, her eyes scanning my face, probably looking for a sign of the loser husband she used to mock. "You look happy." "I am, Jessica," I said. "Truly." She took a tentative step toward me, a desperate glint in her eyes. "Mark, I've been meaning to reach out. I made a mistake. A huge, horrible mistake. Ryan is gone. He's back in Ohio, working some dead-end job. My parents, they still barely talk to me. Sarah hasn't answered a text in a year. I'm working as a receptionist at a dental clinic. It's miserable, Mark. Everything is so hard now." She started to cry, right there in front of the frozen peas. "Is there any chance? Could we just grab a coffee? Just to talk? To get some closure?" I looked at her, and I remembered the audio recording. I remembered her laughing about how boring I was. I remembered her using the money I earned for my future to pay for another man's cocktails. "I don't drink coffee with strangers, Jessica," I said softly. "Strangers?" she sobbed. "I was your wife for 6 years. "No," I replied, adjusting the bag of steaks in my arm. "The woman I was married to died in a laundry room on a rainy Tuesday a year ago. I don't know who you are, but I hope you find a way to build something that actually lasts this time. Enjoy the lasagna." I walked past her. I didn't look back. I paid for my groceries, walked out to my car, and drove home with the windows down. What happened to the rest of them? Sarah and Dave are still together. They had a rough first few months. The wedding trauma was hard to overcome, but they went to counseling and decided that their love was stronger than Jessica's betrayal. They have a baby on the way now. I'm invited to the baby shower. Ryan? Well, Cousin Ben tells me that Ryan's reputation followed him like a bad smell. Every time he tries to apply for a job in finance, someone accidentally emails the hiring manager the link to the wedding video. He's essentially blacklisted from any position that requires a shred of trust. He's the villain in a story that 5 million people have seen. As for me, I'm still an architect, but I don't just design buildings anymore. I design my life with much more care. I don't ignore the cracks in the foundation. I don't settle for good enough when something feels structurally unsound. I learned that the hardest way possible, but maybe that was the only way it would stick. If you're out there and you feel like something is wrong, if your partner is hiding their phone, if the gym sessions are getting too long, if the work seminars don't add up, listen to your gut. Don't wait for the Apple Watch notification. Don't wait for the PI report. Respect yourself enough to walk away before they drain your spirit along with your bank account. Because at the end of the day, you are the architect of your own happiness. Don't let someone else draw the blueprints for your destruction. My name is Mark. I'm an architect, a dog dad, and I'm finally living in a house built on the truth. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this journey. This story was personal, it was painful, but it was necessary. If you cheered when that projector screen lit up, or if you've ever had to rebuild your life after a betrayal, let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you want more stories of justice, karma, and people finding their strength, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and join the ThreadVerse community. We're growing every day, and I'd love to have you on the team. Don't forget to smash that like button too. It helps the algorithm find other people who might need a reminder that they aren't alone. Stay loyal, stay sharp, and remember, the truth always comes out. I'll see you in the next one.